It's a question that everybody that plays Football Manager has asked. What is the best tactic in the entire game? Look, I know there's a million different things that play into it. You got the quality of the players and the proclivities of the players and what actually they're able to do well, but in everything being equal, what is the best tactic? And in that situation, we have an answer for you right now. See, FMBase, the site that gave me my start on YouTube, this channel used to be called FMBase. We've stayed in touch. We've always worked together on things, and they have been working on bringing back something that took over the community a little while ago, and that's something called a tactic tester. And guess what, baby? It's back. If you go to FMBase, there's now a section called Tactics that when you click on, you will see every tactic that has been submitted to FMBase. Those that aren't, repetitive or spam tactics. So if you submit 50 tactics, no, they're not all going to be tested. But the tactics that have been submitted here are run through a test simulation and given a rating in a variety of different circumstances. There is an overall rating, which is the composite that we are going to use to tell you the top 5 tactics for Football Manager right now. But there's also a sub-top, and then there's just a raw underdog rating. Sub-top is being the performance as an average team in a league with great and bad teams, and then underdog being a performance as a team that is not expected to do as well. We'll run through all 3 of those ratings for each of the tactics, but we'll be using the overall composite rating to decide which tactics are the best. That and the fact that in the simulation you get 160 matches essentially to impress on an even playing field, and you get a total number of points won, your goal difference, and that's it. I have more fingers. I don't need to keep going. It's the most definitive way to sort through all the people saying they had an undefeated season with this tactic, so you should download it and actually just show you the cold, hard numbers of tactics that were just better than over 100 other tactics. This brings us to number 5, the 5th best tactic in Football Manager so far. And number 5 is an offensive fire hose. I mean, I'm talking over, almost 3 goals a game. It's a 4-1-3-2, essentially. And you can very obviously see early on, this tactic's going to be great at offense and not great at defense. It emphasizes playing fast and out wide while trying to make use of a completely overwhelming amount of force in the middle. Unsurprisingly, like a lot of tactics that are great in this game, we're using a higher line of engagement, but a standard back line that also happens to have offside trap, which I've never actually seen before, but this is the 5th best tactic in the entire test. It is, however, very specifically oriented. Out of 160 games, it won 89 of them, but lost 42, drawing 29 matches. In those 160 games, though, it scored 468 goals. That's a goal difference of plus 146 in 160 matches. Problem is it conceded like 2 goals a game. 322 goals conceded in 160 matches. Perhaps more so than any other tactic we are going to look at. This is all about overwhelming your opponent. If you are the much better team, this is a great way to break other opponents open. Like people trying to park a low block, this is a very good way to attack that low block. But if you are trying to play a reasonable, kind of consistent performance, then this is still a good tactic. It's just going to be chaos, and you're not going to stop them from scoring goals. You're just more likely to score more. Because as much as this seems like a one-trick tactic, it scored top 5 overall. It got 5 stars as an underdog tactic. Shout out to Lisa. It's the 415 Kamikaze version 1. I should shout out the people that make it. Lisa, congratulations on your 5th place tactic. May it help you break through low blocks or just create goals when you cannot find them otherwise. Number 4 is the subscribe button. Hit it today to guarantee wins and to get a personal thank you wink from me. Just kidding. Number 4 is called Winning is Mandatory, and it is perhaps the most classic formation in Football Manager. Somebody give me the 4-2-3-1 or I'm going to faint. Well, we got it at number 4. Thanks to Alex FM Player for creating a tactic, another tactic that is aggressive, but it gets the job done. I'm talking complete wingbacks on attack. I'm talking a trequartista. I'm talking double inside forwards on attack, an advanced forward in front of all of that, and midfielders and center backs that are basically responsible for just hanging on for dear life. Overlaps, clearly effective in this year's game. We're seeing that in both of the tactics that have come out so far, including the last one where they had inverted wingbacks, right? Like they weren't overlapping with the wingbacks themselves. If anything, they should have been doing underlaps. That's not me. They've got shoot on sight. They hit early crosses. They whip the early crosses, run at the defense. They're more expressive. They're direct. There's a different feel to this tactic, but instead of the standard back line, they've brought the whole team up. The defense is narrow again, which is something that I might start incorporating more often in my tactics, but they are all the way up the field. They are doing absolutely everything they can to put pressure on the opposition. And it works. They scored almost 2.6 goals per match while conceding significantly less goals, just 285 in the 160 test matches, which evens out to 1.78 per match. Where we actually see a reduction, strangely, from the previous tactic is in draws. Winning is mandatory 193 matches, actually ended up losing more as well. So this is a win or loss type tactic. It's either working or it's not. But of course, because it scored 5 stars and everything, it is the 4th best tactic on the entire site that has been submitted. It works a lot more often than it doesn't. A 58% win percentage with all things being equal means if you can get a team that is better than equal, that win percentage is going to be woo! Now for number 3, a tactic that will not look the way you expected all of these tactics to look. Boom! Here it is. It looks like the sort of thing I would come up with, to be perfectly honest with you. It was made by MRCX, the MRCX 4141 Double Metsala, which first of all, thank you. Metsala King. I love Metsalas. You should love Metsalas. We should all love Metsalas. The deep runs from midfield are lethal in FM22. I've been using them, and this person, MRCX, using them. Despite the fact that this tactic is much deeper than a lot of the other tactics that we will see positionally, we're still playing really high up the field. That's still the best way to play in Football Manager. And like somebody after my own heart, this is almost the exact setup I've been using in my Twitch save with Floridsdorfer when it comes to in-possession instructions. If you want to watch me play the game live, there is the Twitch link down in the description. There is also a live YouTube channel, so you can watch the Twitch streams as episodes if you don't have the time, or the word Twitch is scary. Don't get me wrong here, this is still a very aggressive tactic. It honestly would be an absolute barrel of fun. It's one of only 3 tactics that registered over 300 total points over the course of the matches played. So over 160 matches, earned 301 points, 91 wins, 41 losses, 28 draws, but conceded just 1.34 per match while still scoring 2.12 goals per match. The tactic actually had the worst goal difference of the 3 we've looked at so far, but it gets the job done. Just when you're blowing a team out, you blow them out by a little less because everybody's coming from the midfield. Isn't that fun? Number 2, and this looks fun. Who wants a diamond midfield and defensive wingers in the 2nd best tactic for FM22 right now? Oh, I love it. So we've got 2 advanced forwards. We have a shadow striker. We've got defensive wingers with inverted wingbacks on attack, a roaming playmaker anchoring everything, 2 risk-taking center backs on ball-playing defender, and a supporting sweeper keeper. Now, obviously, the concept here is that the defensive wingers are creating deep width. The inverted wingers are cutting in to create an overwhelming amount of force in the midfield. The roaming playmaker is popping up in spots to facilitate, and there is a 3-man wasp's nest at the top of this formation that makes it very difficult to deal with. Limited number of instructions, but looking to play at an extremely high tempo, work the ball into the box, and play out of defense. Also, low crosses are emphasized. We're seeing a lot of the top tactics messing with the type of cross that's being delivered. Another tactic that's using short distribution, but is not using distribute quickly, rather fascinatingly, and does have the super high line of engagement, but standard line with offside trap that has been so effective. But unlike the other ones, we're just down at positive here. There's enough attacking ability, the 5 attacking mentalities in the tactic that positive is doing enough of the job. And that resulted in 303 points and a goal difference of 140 in 160 matches. And eventually that lack of midfield did get overwhelmed, right? Conceded 1.9 goals a match. but scored 2.77 goals per match. And this is everything being even. At a win percentage at 58%. 58% with everything being even. Drew 24 matches, lost 43 matches, but finished second with a very good goal difference and a tactic that I think in particular, if you have the right personnel for it, can entirely overwhelm a midfield. Man City would probably enjoy applying this kind of tactic. Somebody that can play really talented inverted wingbacks that are some of the best players on your team, get them in front of that roaming playmaker. Oh, I think this tactic is fun. It's different, but it's effective. But it pales in comparison to number one. This is the only tactic in the tactic tester that's cracked 100 games won in the 160 test matches played. 100 games. It's named simply the unbeatable 424. It got a staggering 1.99 points per game. That's 319 points out of 160 matches, all things being equal. And it uses a lot of the tenets that we've seen. Emphasis on the wings, making sure we have a wing on each side. Except this is a very forward, aggressive formation. With the central midfield, though, it's using inverted wingbacks. An absolutely fascinating development that almost allows the midfield to get forward while being supported internally, and the wingers holding things down outside, which creates 4 players that are essentially getting forward. Mbakogu ending up here, Anderson able to make runs into the box with the roam from position that box-to-box playmaker has, the wingers setting up kind of the edge of the box here, and the inverted wingbacks getting into the middle, creating an overload while Anderson still makes his run. They're clearly trying to get to that overload too, because despite the incredibly high tempo, you have shorter passing to try and build up to that. Run at the defense, which allows different players to take on their defenders once that overload succeeded. You've got overlaps, which I honestly don't even know how this is going to work. I wish that I did. There's nobody overlapping out of the midfield. There's nobody overlapping from the outside. It feels like maybe underlaps would be what you would look for, but overlaps are on and still effective. We have our short distribution again in a higher, much higher line combination with narrow defensive width, offside traps on, and preventing short goalkeeper distribution. But we don't have the get stuck in, the use tighter marking that we've seen before. We do have the low crosses, as that seems to be something that a couple of these tactics have leaned on. The numbers coming from this tactic, though, just remarkable. Excellent job by Scorch123 in making this tactic, because while averaging 2.7 goals per match, this tactic, looking super offensive, only conceded 1.61, all things being equal, which is the lowest number that we've seen out of any of the tactics, the 4-5-1 included. 430 goals, 257 conceded. This right now is the best tactic on Football Manager, of course, until a better one is identified. Like I said, if you want to test your tactic, by all means submit it, but if you start submitting 25, 45, 100, right, this is still a semi-manual testing process, so your ridiculous submissions will be ignored, but your serious submissions of, hey, this is the tactic I'm using in my save, feel free to submit them. I'll see you guys on stream, or maybe the Zealand TikTok. I made it, and may it help waste your time.